Welcome to PaintScout X. Guys, we are starting a couple minutes late just to get everybody a chance to log in. We're having a lot of people signing in here, and that's exciting. So, guys, if you haven't had a chance to meet me, I'm Jon. I'm the CEO of PaintScout, and I hope we get a chance at some point to meet if we have not met already. It is such a pleasure to have you here today to join us for PaintScout X. We have put a ton of effort into this and put a speaker lineup together that we are very excited about. So for those who don't know me, guys, I have been in the painting industry now for almost 20 years, 15, 20 years, somewhere in there. And I've had the privilege of building a painting business and being a part of this community with PaintScout to drive sales, make all of our lives hopefully a little bit better. And again, I'm just so privileged to be here for our second annual PaintScout X, which is exciting. So we've got an awesome lineup. We've got 13 speakers, 15 sessions overall, and let's get into it. So this is a session that I've put together titled How Competition Drives Performance. Ultimately, the title of this should be how to use competition to drive healthy performance, and ultimately the need for acknowledgement, recognition, and celebration. So this is something I'm really passionate about. I think competition in our sales teams, competition personally and setting goals, having dreams that we are trying to push towards is just so helpful. And I've got hopefully a great session here, just trying to explain how to use that to leverage our community, leverage our companies, leverage our own lives. So, all right. Before we get into today's focus, I'm going to go back here. I just want to introduce myself again in my journey. So, in 2008, we started a painting company here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and that company has grown to be, an abnormally large size painting business. And although I'm not super involved in that business today, that journey has put me on a path which has made me encounter technology, made me lean into software as a solution, and honestly been able to change my life and hopefully many other people's lives in our community. What started as a painting business turned into a need for a sales solution. We ran into a problem in that we could not properly, what we felt like, deliver a sales solution to our customers in a timely way that allowed us to get pricing to customers on the spot. We looked into a lot of software solutions and really didn't find what we felt was going to be the solution to that problem. And so we proceeded to try to build that. And for those who have been involved in a software project, it's hard to do. It's expensive, takes a lot of effort, and ultimately, if I were to go back, I'm not so sure I would do the same thing. But here we are. So we leaned into that. We found that we created a solution that allowed us to sell on-site to customers. What we found with that is that we were able to deliver prices faster, which got us better win rates. When we did that on the spot, we were able to get better customer service because customers could have a conversation with us about price faster. And we were able to deliver a professional proposal, which set us apart from the competition. And those things have contributed to our success and our belief that we can be sales leaders. And the thing that didn't happen, though, was that once we brought on salespeople or people to join our team, we had no idea how our team was doing. We didn't know what good thresholds were. How much should each person be selling? What was a good win rate? What expectations should we have for number of estimates? What type of how fast should we be delivering estimates? These things were complete unknowns. And I think with those questions, we've looked at data, we've looked at other companies, and we've tried to figure that out. And today I have the privilege of saying that we are on track to start to understand that and deliver that information back to our communities. And I'm very excited about that. And I'm going to run through that today on how that works. So with that, we've got today's focus, which is going to be the 5 W's of the PaintScout leaderboards, how healthy competition drives performance, and the art of acknowledgement, recognition, and celebration. So I've thought a lot about this, and hopefully, you're going to get some great insights here. So, all right. First off, so when we created PaintScout, we created a sales tool, and that was great. But what that's turned into is that we're really driven to create the greatest painting sales community the world has ever seen. And we feel like the painting community as a whole has been overlooked, not only uh, as a trade, as a craft from, I'd say, probably the general public. I struggled with this as a being in the painting business that, you know, has resulted in me having a bit of a chip on my shoulder to try to change that. That we are a respected community, that we do a craft that's very important, and that we need to change that dialogue with our customers and with the general public and show that we are professional, we are, driven, a driven community of successful people. And we are here, and our belief is that we can contribute to that story for our community and our industry in terms of sales. So that's really what we're about. And that's why this presentation exists. That's why these features exist that we've developed, and why we're continuing to add to that development of our software and the features that we come out with. So first off, one of the questions that I just mentioned, which was how are we doing in sales, has driven me to do a lot of research and interviews with top sales reps. And in 2024, Michael Murray and I, Michael, who you're going to meet later today, if you haven't met him already, is the co-host of the Price Sell Paint podcast with me. And he has become a great friend. We met in 2021 at the PCA conference, randomly sitting at a table, and we found we had very similar interests in the types of business we wanted to run and what we were interested in. And what we found through that journey together and through the Price Sell Paint podcast is that a lot of us in the industry don't really know what greatness looks like. And we have guesses. A lot of people will talk, whether it be online or in person, about how they're doing. But it's sometimes hard to know what the reality is. I think that information has been hidden, probably I'm not sure for what reason, but today we have a chance to actually go through and see what that looks like. And so in our presentation, we likened greatness in the painting industry to the 4-minute mile in running. And for those of you who have heard this presentation, I apologize, but for those of you who haven't, I just want to give you a brief overview of what that looks like. So the 4-minute mile in running was a standard that nobody really thought was possible to break. People thought that in order to break it, you'd have to be under perfect conditions and have a perfect crowd, like a big crowd, a big meet with a really top performing runner. And that's how you break the 4-minute mile. And what actually ended up happening was that it was, a fairly average, not a top performing runner on an average day in front of a small crowd at a tiny meet who ended up breaking it. And what happened was once that got broken, another runner was able to break that very, very quickly, I think within months. And since then, almost 2,000 runners have been able to beat that threshold of 4 minutes in a mile, and something that nobody thought was possible. And for us in the painting industry, we work in very siloed businesses. We have our business, and most of the time we don't even share information locally, let alone with anybody in our industry. And so we don't really know what greatness looks like. But with PaintScout, we were able to go through top reps. We were able to see who in the community was performing really, really well. And what we found was that the 4-minute mile for painting sales was probably about $2 million annually. And that number, we had, I think about in 2024, there was roughly 30 reps who did that in the community. And then in 2023, there was about 30. In 2024, we had closer to 60. And interestingly enough, once we did that presentation, we've seen a lot more people pushing towards that $2 million mark. And I believe that's because we've now been able to share that information and set a standard of what excellence looks like that wasn't there previously. The other thing that happened was that we were able to interview every rep, or not every rep, but we had about 10 reps that we interviewed who achieved that milestone. And one thing that we found was when we talked with these reps, uh, we were able to learn a lot about their process, a lot about their approach, but we were also able to tell them how they ranked. And what happened was that every single person who was able to learn how they ranked was so incredibly excited. They had never known before that they were a top performer and that they were actually in an elite category. And it was so encouraging for us to see that everyone's reactions and want to know and where they ranked and how they started to think about how they can improve and set goals for next year. And that has led us to look at how we can enhance our community with the leaderboards, which we're going to introduce here in a second, and healthy competition and the ability to acknowledge greatness in our community. So let's take a look here. And part of this is just a quick quote here is that 75% of sales reps say a competitive culture motivates them to perform better. And here for the first time, we are offering that ability to not only be competitive in your business, if you're siloed, if you're the only one selling, that's impossible. If you have maybe one person on your team selling, it's very difficult. But now we can compete as a community, and hopefully that's going to make us all better. All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce the PaintScout leaderboards. For those of you who have seen the PaintScout leaderboards already, thank you for checking that out. This has been fun for us to put together, and the feedback that you've had as users has been incredible. If you are not a PaintScout user today and you're here to learn, I hope that you take something out of this just in terms of standards and ways to set goals and really start to potentially use leaderboards as a way to encourage your entire team, whether it be production or sales. So so let's take a look at it. So for those of you who don't know, what are leaderboards? This is the rankings of the PaintScout community based on win rate and sales. That's what we've chosen to do right now. That may be different in the future. This is purely just as a launch. These are the two types of two data points that we're looking at, and we want to make sure that we get that right before we move into the next phase of what this looks like. This is measured monthly and yearly. So if you log in and you see the leaderboards, I'm going to show you in a second where to find them, but you're going to see that we can see last year's data, and we can also see this month and last month and start to see how we're trending. So we'll be also adding more to that as we go, but that's how we've started. We've got some anonymous code names, obviously for privacy. So nobody here is identifiable. And if nothing else, one great reason to check out the leaderboards is just to learn about some new animals and colors. I have been myself Googling and searching a ton of different animals because I didn't even know they existed. And I thought I knew a lot of animals. I think the one that stuck out to me recently was the Zandu Gila monster, which I think is a lizard of some type, but that's some pretty wild stuff in there. You can thank our tech team for that. But we do that for privacy. We want everybody here to feel comfortable in sharing some of that insight with each other, but ultimately we want to respect everyone's privacy. So when you do see the leaderboards, this is a chance for you to see how you and your team are doing. You can see the top 300 people as they're ranked. And that's just because that's the data we felt was relevant. And if you are not ranked, you're going to see a little NR symbol, but you're going to see who's ranked number 300. And you can start to actually build some perspective as to what's happening and where you got to be to achieve some success. Or not to achieve some success, but to see where that number 300 is. And we'll talk about that later. All right. So where to find them? When you log in on the actual dashboard, you're going to see underneath the sales and win rate, there is a leaderboards that are new, shiny and new. And if you click into the little button there, you're going to see view your leaderboards. You'll click into that. That's going to bring you to a pop-up with a list of, you'll see the top 10, you'll see your team, and you'll also see yourself. And so you can isolate that from time based on the top. So you'll see last year, last month, this month, as well as you and your team. And so feel free to look in, check that out, and see how you're doing. And who we built these for was, I've mentioned this before. I mean, this is really for if you're a sales rep, there's a lot of power here. If you're a sales manager, and a business owner, we want you to use these leaderboards to get that insight you need in order to build systems, build expectations, and really at the end of the day, start to improve and and build up your team. So, all right, quick shout out here. We've got two awesome sales reps. If you guys are in here in this session, I would love for you to just chime in and let me know you're here because your accomplishments last year were truly phenomenal. We have our top commercial rep in the community was the Mocha Orca at close to 5.5 million. And that was on 41 jobs. So pretty big average job size. Again, very impressive. If you were here, I think you should go out and cheers to someone about this accomplishment because it's very incredible. And for our top rep was the amethyst possum. Again, amethyst was a color I was not aware of. So definitely I'm learning in this process as well. And that residential rep sold $6.4 million last year. Truly an amazing accomplishment. Not sure if this individual sleeps or not. Pretty, but ultimately just incredible numbers and something to aspire to. I did not know that this was possible. So well done. All right. Why did we build these things? And it's going to go into further on competition and how to use it in a healthy way to drive our teams and ourselves. But ultimately, this starts from a place of fun. I believe that this is one of the first. And somebody knows of another one. Please let me know. But first gamification in our industry, and with gamification, it just makes it more fun for everybody. We get a chance to, have more purpose. I think there's dopamine hits from small wins. Every time I talk to, my brother or my sister who are both in sales, they definitely see those leaderboards and are aware of where they're at. And every time they get a sale, they're checking again to just see how that ranks them. And it's bringing a little more fun to the job. I think with that, we didn't just want to rank reps. We really we want to lean into improvement, and we wanted to give context because the numbers alone really aren't motivating. Context is. So we built this to give you context, to start to see how you are doing, and to give you a chance to ultimately have more consistent effort or motivate consistent effort, encourage personal improvement, make wins visible and just easier to acknowledge and celebrate. And we hope that that's what you get out of this. So, all right, let's start looking here at just what we feel is the main driver behind this, and that's that rising tides rise all boats, or raise all boats. Sorry. And for those of you who haven't heard that saying before, what it means is that when the tide comes in, everyone's boat goes up, and we feel like this feature is going to really do that. For those of you who are in sales, we feel like having context for the first time is going to give us the ability to know where we can improve as a community. One interesting story is that back in the day when we first started PaintScout, my brother was kind of involved from testing and looking at the product from the start. He was always curious to know how we stood, and it's been interesting to see just how having some of that insight has allowed Dave to excel and start to push himself. And I'm not sure that without that data, we would have really been able to see that as fast as we have. But these things are meant for all of us to improve. And if we do that, we feel like the whole industry gets better by having our community get better. It's going to push other companies to get better. And again, go back to that chip on my shoulder, which is that I feel like we all deserve a little better, a little more respect, and be able to drive our businesses forward in a professional way. I think also at the end of the day, sales feels like a solo sport. And by doing this is going to feel like a team game. So my comment earlier about if you're selling on your own in your business, or you're a single person who's responsible for sales, This is now a community where you can have some fun and participate. And with that, we hope that you get a chance to recognize some wins, that we can all recognize wins, just like we were able to recognize, Mocha Orca and Amistith Possum. I mean, these are incredible achievements, and we want to be able to do that as a community because we feel like that's going to bring us all together and push our businesses in the right direction. We also want to build cultures where, effort and improvement are visible and celebrated. And this is one of those tools that we can use to do that. So with that, this is interesting, but great sales teams compete not to crush each other, but to pull greatness out of each other. And I really feel like now with these leaderboards, the PaintScout community has become our sales team, our ability to push each other and all to achieve some greatness out of that. All right. The 5 W's and now the H. So how to use them. For sales reps, you're going to see the top 5 people ahead of you or 5 people behind you if you are ranked. And so it's going to give you a chance to see what you need to do in order to keep pushing to the next level. As well, if you're not ranked, you're going to see number 300. So you're going to see where you got to get to in order to start being in that top category of people. For admins, you're going to see how your team is performing compared to the community and where improvement is possible. So not only do you see win rate and dollars closed, but you're also going to see number of jobs sold. And so you can start to look at average job size. You can start to see some performance metrics, and you can really use those to your benefit in terms of encouraging your team and setting goals that make sense. You get to review your goals against them. So, you can set goals that are, moving up a couple spots or finally being ranked or, seeing your win rate in the top 10%. I mean, these are things that we can start to do together. And I think there's a lot of power there. And ultimately, acknowledge and celebrate. I'm going to keep going back to this because it's so important. And we're going to talk about this at the end. All right. So now into 3 healthy ways competition drives performance. So first of all, I think goal setting is very important when we're in sales. For those of us who do it, I think it really allows us to push towards something. And for those of you who don't, I want you to really think seriously about some goal setting and what you can do to start putting regular goals in place. Anytime we set a goal, it's much easier to achieve than just having a random approach to sales and to business. And so I want to encourage you to do that. With that, I think the PaintScout leaderboards let us be more specific. Because we have data, we can start to actually be more realistic about our benchmarks based on the peer averages. And because of that, we can also start to see what we want to achieve based on this great sales community that we have. So be more specific with our goals because that data is available and because we get a chance to set that based on our community. So we get to set it on data, which is so critical. I think without data, we really don't know how we're doing. And now we have that data. Also with the leaderboards, we can be faster to adjust our behavior. We've done a lot of work in the dashboard section just to show stats and show how you're performing. But now we can adjust our behavior based on the community. And that's going to be super helpful. And celebrate improvement, not just rankings. I think that, there's a chance here to get too hyper-focused on the rankings, but ultimately this is about continuous improvement and trying to set goals that push us forward a little bit further every day. We have a variety of people in our community. We have people who are just starting in sales in the painting industry. And we have people who have been doing this for years. And I don't think it's fair to compete or to compare ourselves if we're new versus experienced. I think there is some experience needed in order to start achieving these higher numbers. And for those of us who are just starting, I think that seeing what's possible should be encouraging and lead to just having goals that are realistic and about improvement. So if you're starting out and your win rate's low, and we know that you need to get a win rate that is, say, around 50% to be in the top 300. well, we can start to work towards this. And one of the interesting things that I find with this data is that, in talking with Michael Murray when we first met, it was a conversation about how our sales teams were doing. And what stood out to me was that because we didn't have the data available, anything seemed like it was good. And so when Michael and I were talking, Michael was mentioning that his win rate was, around, I think it was 32 or 33%. And at the time, I didn't know him very well, but I just decided to be bold. And I was like, Michael, I think, you should be pushing towards 50%. That's a number that we've seen as possible, and really, something that you should be expecting of yourself and your team. And he was a little bit hesitant, but he eventually got involved with PaintScout and started to see the light a little bit. And I as of this month, Michael, we're just looking at data, and Michael's now at 50% win rate, and his team is excelling. They're doing fantastic. And with that, they've also almost doubled their price. I have to ask him exactly, but there is just an ability here to take this data and start to implement in our business such that it's going to benefit all of us, setting goals that are very achievable, but that are incremental. And it didn't happen overnight for their team, but it has happened now, and it set a new standard of excellence, and that's got to be super encouraging. I know I'm very proud of those results for their business. So, all right, so let's go here to all right, where am I here? So creating a better culture is number 2. So we think that progress is more important than outcomes, and we need to create cultures within our business that celebrate those progress milestones. I think every time we hit a milestone, it gives us a bit of a dopamine reward, and we have the ability to do that internally in our businesses. And I think this doesn't only apply to sales; this applies all the way through our businesses and what we do in our own lives. Is that when we start to set micro goals and we can see that the progress that we're making is happening, it creates better culture for everybody. That together with that, social comparison enhances performance just through competitive arousal. And I think that having healthy teams are also competitive teams. Any team that I've ever played on, I played soccer growing up, and the teams that I enjoyed the most were the ones in which we were very competitive. We were trying to win, and even if we didn't win, we played as hard as we could, and there was a reward to that. And I think that with competition and driving and pushing ourselves and our teams forward, it's going to generate better culture, and it's going to really create a culture of excellence, and one that we can, at the end of the day, all be proud of. So, all right, let's take a look here. So we've got just a quick quote here, and this is something from PwC, and that's that organizations that gamify performance tracking report a 14% higher employee satisfaction. And so not only is this just a theory, it's actually a reality that competitiveness, gamification, even let's go as far as saying leaderboards, really are what helps us drive satisfaction as a team and gives us something to be proud of at the end of the day. Now, I will say, it's not just about being number one. I know I mentioned that number ones before. Those are incredible numbers, but it's about giving all of us a little reason to push a little bit harder. And when we're competitive, we set those goals, we use it in a healthy way. I think pushing a little harder is what we all want at the end of the day. And we also want this to be an environment where we can learn from each other and stay engaged. One thing you're going to see from us is that we're going to be launching mastermind groups. And these groups are going to offer you a chance to interact with people outside of your immediate competition and really get better and ask people the questions that we want to ask everybody, which is, how do you do it? Also, we've gone in the Price Sell Paint podcast, and we've interviewed these top reps in our community. You can check out those videos on our podcast and online. And those are great chances to learn from top reps. We've gone through and asked them a bunch of questions about their process, their mentality, their mindset. And we've even actually estimated a couple jobs with them. And I think there's a lot to learn of that. And we're going to keep doing that in order to make sure that it's not just about being number one, it's about learning from each other and really trying to keep pushing forward as a community for all the reasons I've mentioned before. The last thing we feel is that when we play to win, the whole community wins. And so we are actively going to be, celebrating these top performers in our community and highlighting their performance, because when we're all playing to win, guys, we all inherently know this, the whole community wins. And that's what's exciting to me. So together with with this healthy culture and creating a healthy environment, we want to choose how we compete. And I think in a healthy way, this means focus on self-improvement, recognition for effort, and motivation through fun. That's when competition is the best. Where we want to watch ourselves, though, is we want to be hyper aware of the pressure to outperform others at all costs. This is not going to be something that's going to be healthy for us, and we want to be aware of that. Only recognizing number one is something we're going to try to stay away from. We will recognize number one, but those who have had massive wins in our community, massive improvements, we want to highlight those people as well. And so stress from constant judgment. Guys, this is about motivation and fun, not about judgment. We think that there's something detrimental in that. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're either constantly judging your team or constantly judging yourself, step back for a second and think, how can I do this a little bit differently? All right. So the third thing here of how, competition, how to use competition to drive performance is, I really feel like this gives us a chance to acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate not only in at work, but also outside of work. And with that, healthy competition, when we can use that to reward all the things we've already talked about, whether it be progress or achievement, achieving a goal, it allows us to rewire our brains for positivity. So this is going to let us, be looking for the good in life. It keeps morale high and stress low, and I think that's really important. Not only that, when we acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate, what gets recognized gets repeated. And I think that as a team, we want to acknowledge when we're doing the right things and make that a part of our culture overall. And so it encourages everyone to model, positive feedback loops, and that's really, really important when we're using these tools. I think the third thing is it turns goals into moments. And I'm going to talk about how to do that really well, or give you some ideas of how to do that towards the end of the presentation. But for every time we have a moment, we've achieved something, we can, if we really look to acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate those moments, it gives us a chance to give meaning to that moment. And we do that so little in life. And I just encourage you to look to do that more. The more goals, the more micro achievements we set, just the more moments and the more joy we get in life. And I think that's really, really important. It keeps burnout at bay at the end of the day. So, we want to, because we have small wins all the time, it gives us a chance to just reflect on what we're doing versus just, going through that hamster wheel all the time. And the last thing here is that, it strengthens relationships. And so we want to build trust and connection in our teams. We want to turn competition to a bonding experience. And instead of, trying to use, if we don't acknowledge these things, I think we have a risk of creating a wedge in our teams and our lives. And honestly, just feeling like, well, that's just my job. So that's what I have to do. So, all right. So with that, I'm again going to acknowledge some number ones this month. And I know I said I'm not going to just acknowledge number ones. That's not the point. But I do think that if you take a look at these people, we should also acknowledge just the incredible achievement these people have had. So Bister Quagga, again, a color and an animal that I was not aware of, is a commercial rep. I've heard about this guy a number of times or guy or gal from my brother, who is just floored at they've been able to sell 1.8 million on 3 jobs this month, and I believe that happened probably in the first week or 2. What's incredible about this and kind of ties into this whole presentation is that I'd actually like to know if Mr. Cuega has any idea that they're a top performing sales rep and has done something incredible or not. Because again, without the community, how would we ever know? But that number is just insane. So definitely something to learn there. That's our commercial rep. The residential rep, 472K on 10 jobs, also incredible, um, incredible achievement. So we're going to be sending out a couple little trophies to these people just to acknowledge this. And like I said, we're going to start to acknowledge our whole community as well for as top performers, but also people who are just having incredible growth moments and achievements throughout. So I want to do a quick exercise, and this is leaning towards our ability to start to acknowledge, celebrate, and recognize. So for those of you who are on the call, I'd love for you to just write in the chat the answer to this question. So think for a second. If you had $500 to treat yourself, how would you spend it today? So I'm going to give you a moment here. I'm going to open up my chat if I can figure that out. And I want to hear just everyone brainstorming. So feel free to throw it in. Yeah, seeing some awesome ideas here. Keep throwing in the chat, guys. It's this is such a great brainstorming activity. Beauty. Love it, guys. Yeah, keep throwing those ideas in. This is an exercise for all of us. And one thing is, I'm going to speak from personal experience. I have a hard time really celebrating. I move from thing to thing very quickly, and I just kind of feel like, well, that's what I should be doing. And one Michael Murray was the one who told me about this exercise, and really, what it does is it starts to give at least me a sense of what actually is going to bring me joy, and peels back all those layers to say, if I just want to do something for myself in order to reward something that I should be celebrating. It's just a fantastic thing for me to do. And, puts me in the present. It really puts me in a space where I can start to think about what do I need now? Like what would bring me joy now? And every time I do this, I'm always just so, it gives me something to put in my notes as to a way to celebrate and mark a milestone. And so I also, at the end of the day, I have a bit of a, money mindset, which Michael's going to talk later about today. Is it's interesting about this process, which is that, in a lot of ways, I have a tendency to prioritize myself, and we need to actually look at these moments of celebration as ways to, give us something, give us some energy, give us some life, and take it out of the mundane, make it a moment, use this as a framework of something you can do, and allow you to really experience the moment, the joy in that moment. At the end of the day, we want to be able to celebrate both personally and as a team. And so this is a fun exercise to do with your team as well. Understand what our, um, you know, goals and what can be potential rewards of those goals. So, there's been, guys, I'm just checking out the chat right now. I love all these ideas. Chris Zook, let's get that pedicure, man. That sounds important to you. What else we got? Red Lobster. I don't even know if I've been to Red Lobster ever, but it sounds lovely. So, guys, these are great ideas. So, for those of you who have a sales rep, we want to set goals that are personal, and we want to use these types of activities to start to understand what it's going to mean to celebrate. So we can, I'd say make it public. Let's put this outside of our discussions with those people. Let's put it on the wall. Let's make these moments recognizable and something that we can see every day as a team and as individuals. I think also like understanding the why of the goal is so important. And so that exercise we just did, when we do it as a team, talk about the why. Like, why is this important? What's interesting about it? And I think that's going to help understand each other better and understand the drive behind what we're doing. And ultimately, I think a lot of us have a hard time thinking of goals, but if we can think of the reward first and the why of the goal, it's going to help us create those goals and make them more tangible and interesting as we continue to grow. All right, so I'm going to talk here about a couple of ways to acknowledge achievements. I've seen a couple people who have been doing this online, and I'm super inspired by them. They're putting out doing a Facebook post to their community about how their team is doing. From a sales perspective is what I've noticed, but I think we can do this throughout everything we do, which is that we can give shout outs to team meetings, public mentions, and these are things that mean a lot. I've heard it said before, praise in public, reprimand in private. And the one area that I always feel like I need to work on more is just being able to praise more in public. My team is awesome. And this presentation has been an awesome reminder to me of the things that I need to focus on, both in my personal life and in my business, which is that I need to make this personal, celebrate more, and be just generous with the praise. And like I said, to get out of my head a little bit more. And so, other things like personalized thank you notes mean a lot. And then, progress recognitions, whether that be, a great month, a great quarter. These are things that are really important. And I think, offering things that are out of the blue as rewards, and also understanding that why of our team and the people in our lives is going to offer the chance to do, experiential rewards. So things like, um, concerts, different events, things that we can start to build into the cadence of our giving and our celebration. And I think just random time off is also incredibly valuable and something we can use. For those of you with a team, so I've always felt that making celebration a team event is critical and something we want to bring everyone together with. Like I said before, I mean, we're in a siloed environment. Anytime that we get wins, sometimes it feels a little lonely, and that also can happen on a team if we don't do it properly. And so, learning how to make celebration as a team a part of what we do is super important. And we want to have goals that allow everybody to win. So in sales, a lot of times, you get a sale, it's an individual win, and it can feel one win on the team can feel like a loss for someone else. And if we can create some goals that actually allow people to have everybody win, it's going to give us a chance to celebrate as a team, acknowledge, and just build that into a better culture. So we want to encourage collaboration as well. We want to, if you have a job that's hard to bid, we want to have somebody else in the community on our team be willing to help. For a difficult customer situation, we want to create environments where everybody's wanting to chip in and make sure that customer's satisfied. And we want to make the information known regularly. So we want to, give updates weekly, monthly, whatever works for you and your team or your business. We want to be able to update that all the time. Now, this works as well as much for sales teams as it does for production teams and our office teams. Just create things that allow everybody to win, and we're going to be you're going to see incredible results in your team. So a couple ideas here of how to celebrate as a team. First off, we got the traveling trophy. So this is a chance for you to create something to put on the desk that shows like, hey, you are the top banana or whatever it is that day, that month, that week. That's pretty fun to do. We see like the victory gong and the bell. We've got one of those in our office, and always fun to hear that. Hot dogs and steaks. This is a fun idea that I hope other people take for their teams. So what this is we set like um, a goal for the day. Say leads are low in the winter and we want to generate some more leads, and we're going to make some calls to past customers. We go and get everybody on the phone, start calling customers, and whoever can generate the most leads that day is going to be the winner. And then at the end of the day, we have dinner, and everybody gets a hot dog except for the person who won, who gets a steak. And it's just kind of a fun event, and really brings the team together. So a couple other ideas here. Feel free to take note. I think these are great things to start to incorporate with our teams, and I think it's just going to make us all a little bit better. All right. So for everybody, um, you know, something happened recently in my life, which I had someone pass away on Friday, unexpectedly, and it was a friend. And honestly, I talked to him maybe a week or two ago, and he, yeah, it was a very unexpected event. And anytime these things happen, I always, as I'm sure other people on this call who've had this happen before, you sit and reflect. You sit and think about what's important in life. And honestly, one thing that I kept coming back to was, just how grateful I am for so many things in my life, and how I want to make that a little bit more known. And so I think at the end of the day, it's just so important for us to take moments and make moments out of achievements, and as small as they might be, whether it be personal or business. I think taking that stance in life is such a healthy way to approach things. And I think about going forward with whether it be family and just being engaged and excited at any type of event, where I could just be, oh, this is just a regular event, or at work celebrating things that are actual milestones and really important. And I think for all of us, finding simple traditions to celebrate wins is so important. I used to, every time I did something hard, I would go and buy myself a, what was it, a London Fog at Starbucks. And I found I was actually doing a lot of hard things. So I was having uh, a lot of them. So I had to change my tradition, but that was something that I did to give me a chance to just celebrate those wins. And I think we can do that in all of our lives every day. I like to say cheers often. I think when we get together, whether it be in our personal lives or in business, just finding a reason when we get together to cheers, some reason to celebrate, some reason to give a compliment, make a moment out of it is just so important. And I think we can do that all the time, every day. And I think being grateful, letting other people know, is really critical in all of this. The last thing I want to say is it's not a zero-sum game. Whether it be wins on the leaderboard, or hearing somebody else is having a good day, or getting a success in their life, does not mean that we're getting any less. And that's so important for us to remember, because this is how gratefulness begins. And this is how we can have a posture of just being thankful, acknowledging, recognizing, and celebrating. So a couple of wrap up and takeaways here. Leaderboard should be used to inspire rather than pressure. They highlight progress, energize our teams, and build culture. We have an opportunity here to celebrate more than we think, and we need to do it often. And my final challenge to you: open the app, see your position, and make your move. So, guys, I'm going to open up here for a couple of questions. I know it's going to be a little bit tight, but feel free to leave them in the Q&A here, and I will get to as many as I can here in the next 5 minutes. All right. All right. So, Neri, thanks for coming today. Are those 3 commercial painting jobs new or repaint? To be honest, I don't know. That's not data I've looked into yet. If the Mocha, no, it's Bister Quagga. If Bister Quagga is here, feel free to chime in. We would love to know if those are commercial or repaint, or sorry, new or repaint. All right, so we've got, uh, okay, Rick. Don't have a sales team. It's all you, Rick. We appreciate you so much, man. You've been awesome, and we're so happy to help you. Um, okay, trying to come up with templates to organize the production rates. Not doing very well at this. Rick, we always love to help you. Feel free. Rick's just asking about some help here to streamline his sales process. He's feeling like it's taking too long. And Rick, I would say, just reach out to our team. We're always happy to help. And at the end of the day, the standard that I have for this product is to get an estimate done in 15 minutes or less. If you are not achieving that, feel free to talk to our team. We would love to give you some pointers and some shortcuts. All right. So Colton, what's up, Colton? How you doing, man? Okay, so Colton, you're asking about access to more data. Yeah, so the questions here, like how many estimates are each rep doing per week? What's the close rate? We're going to be looking at some of these things to add to the leaderboards, but as well, like those questions about, trying to find standards, what's acceptable, what are people doing who are finding excellence, like whether it be like um, how many appointments, close rate, win rate, all that type of thing. Look for the masterminds that are coming. We're going to be facilitating some of those conversations, and you can start to ask questions some top performing reps or sales managers, business owners, people who are experiencing success, and try to figure that out for yourself. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, all in painting, guys, welcome. For leaderboards, there's a way to this can be recognized regionalized across the U.S. Yes, so we're going to be looking at some of those types of features as we go here. We think there's a lot more detail we can add around this in ways that, one, I mean, what's really important to us is we respect everyone's privacy. And so we've had to really work through that, and offering this on a regional level, I think there might be a possibility for that. We've definitely talked about that as a team. All right, Hassan, ACH question. You'll hear more about this later today, but very soon. Logan, welcome, Logan. So what's the sample size for reps hitting 2 million? That number is currently sitting around 60 in our community. So an elite group for sure. Yeah, guys, if you, any other questions, like I said, we've got the PaintScout sales packages here for anybody who participates. And don't be shy, guys. I've sat there in your position. I have been more shy than I should be. And feel free to contribute. That's the best way to get involved. All right. Well, with that, if there's no further questions, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much again for being here. We're excited for the rest of the day. There are 12 speakers who are coming up who are all going to be hopefully better than I was. So that's going to be great. And we're excited to have you as part of the day. And I'm going to be signing off. I'll be seeing you again later today. Thank you, guys.